Well, welcome everyone and good evening to a Tuesday night council meeting. Happens to us a couple of times a year, this time because of Family Day yesterday. Great to see you all. It's the sixth meeting of the 146th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And we'll start off asking, are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on February the 9th, 2026 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No presentations this evening. We'll move on to Committee of the Whole. Council will now resolve itself into Committee of the Whole to deal with following business. First committee is Strategic Direction and Development. First two items relate to notices from the Committee of Adjustment. The first is notice of a public meeting to take place on February the 26th at 10 a.m. And it's regarding an application for a minor variance by the Elm. And that is to permit a minimum of one parking space per dwelling unit totaling 25 spaces, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 1.25 parking spaces per dwelling unit totaling 32 spaces, and that's at 232 Elm Street. Next is notice of a decision relating to a consent to sever the property at 18 McIntyre Street from the property at 18.5 to 20 McIntyre Street, which had previously merged in title. The third is notice of an open house to take place on February 24th at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Masonic Center of Elgin. And this is a meeting from the municipality of Central Elgin. And a public meeting to take place on March the 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Elgin County Administration Building. And this is from the municipality of Central Elgin regarding a proposed official plan amendment to permit the redevelopment of the former St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital lands. No further items unless there are any items from the members. Moving into community engagement and services, no items on the agenda unless there are any items from the members. Seeing none, Your Worship, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to a geotechnical services RFP award. I have a motion that report ES 0426 relating to geotechnical services RFP 2025-049 award be received for information, and further the council award RFP 2025-049 to MTE Consultants Inc. in the amount of $288,750 excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the Geotechnical Services Award? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. If I could just say, for those of you at home may or may not be seeing, Councillor Taylor's he's got some bronchitis and probably can't even share with us his great thoughts tonight. He will try. All right. Put up your hand and wave a lot if you have a question. I know Councillor Gibson, I think, is also ill tonight. So we have a reduced council tonight, but we're strong and mighty. We'll be okay. Next item.
Next item relates to a memorandum of understanding for data sharing with the Electrical Safety Authority. I have a motion that report PD 0726 relating to a memorandum of understanding with the Electrical Safety Authority to allow for data sharing be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Electrical Safety Authority to allow for data sharing. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments on data sharing? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any items from the members, Your Worship.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to community grant requests. I have a motion that report TR 0326 relating to community grant requests be received for information. Excuse me. And further, the council approve the community grant request for the seniors picnic in the park in the amount of $2,500. And further, the council approved the community grant request for St. Thomas Skating Club in the amount of $2,821.20. And further, the council approved the community grant request for Focus on Nature in the amount of $3,500. And further, that council approved the community grant request for Our Place Respite in the amount of $862. And further, the council approved the community grant request for St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank in the amount of $9,856.04. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
I like that we've taken them all together, but please go ahead and have your discussions on individual ones if you need to. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't have a problem with any of them except the Focus on Nature one is not a local group. It's out of Guelph, and they pay the people that do the talks. And I'm just, it's also a school venture, and I'm not sure what kind of precedent we would be setting with starting to pay for those kind of visits from outside groups. There's hundreds, probably thousands of people that make a living by going to schools and providing extra curriculum to the students. And I'd rather see that it stayed local. I mean, if there is such, if there's a valuable program, then maybe our local photography club would be better served, working with them. It could be something that we did through our own Parks and Recs program, but I just have a difficulty sending money down to Guelph and then them deciding to come here and do some of those visits. Other than that, I think they're all worthy of our approval.
All right, Councillor Kohler, I think I saw your hand.
Thanks, Your Worship. Actually, it's the same question, because I wasn't sure if because I wasn't familiar with that group, so I was Googling it, and that's the only one that I could come up with. And I was going to ask if we were correct on the Google, I guess we now correct on that Google search, if it was an out-of-town organization, because I'm in the same opinion as Councillor Clark. I think these dollars are valuable, and I'd like to see a more helping local clubs.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. I don't disagree with any of them, but I do have a question, and I had a quick discussion with Lisa and Adam when I came in. I thought we had a maximum for grants, 3,500. Now I've been told it's 5,000, and we did something last year with the food bank to say you should apply this much money through grants, but I thought we had a limit on grants. I'm just hoping that we're going in the right direction for other people who want. All of a sudden, we're getting a flood for 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. So I don't know if Lisa or Adam would want to comment on it, just to see if I'm going in the right direction.
Mr. Treasurer, I'm quite pleased that you've brought this many to us this early in the year. But please answer Councillor Herbert's question.
Thank you, Your Worship. According to Council's policy, which is attached in the agenda, $3,500 grant applications are the typical maximum, but you are allowed to have exceptional circumstances where you would approve in excess of that amount. There is no guidance in the policy what would constitute exceptional, so we've done our best to interpret that on your behalf, but ultimately that's a council decision if you're going to approve for something beyond the 3,500 limit.
So it would be council's choice each time it would happen. Councillor Herbert, and then Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up. So this would be the first time we've granted something over 3,500 or 5,000 max. So anybody else, all the other groups could ask for grants, and then we either decide yes or no. So we become the bad guys again because we don't have a limit in it again.
Sorry, Councillor Herbert, but that's what council did to me right from the beginning, is we are the bad guys. We make the decision. That's why they come to council. Right?
Thank you.
If you don't have the guts to say yes or no, then we'll have to work around that. But that's where we're at. If
Well,
it's a good enough grant, then I expect us to say yes to it.
Yeah, I just say that, Your Worship, because we do have a limit set, that's all.
Yeah.
And if we're going to change the limit, I have no problem with the food bank. I just want to make sure we're setting the record straight for any other group who wants to come in and say, gee, it's exceptional for us to say yes or no. I don't like the idea of the pressure being put back on council to decide yes or no. That's all, because we got away from that when we put a limit on it. I think of all the times when I first came on council, we'd sit for 3 hours with grants, everybody building cases for everybody, and then we come up with this solution, put a max on it, and there's certain criteria that you have to have when you apply for a grant. Because I remember Dan Sheridan used to stand up there quite often and say, This is the criteria. They're not meeting the criteria, even though we thought we wanted to do it. But anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I'm happy to support it. I just want to make sure next time we have going in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wookie?
Thanks, Your Worship. As far as the food bank one goes, I believe, and I might be wrong, we had a pretty fulsome discussion about this, that it was, we had to choose how we were going to fund this, whether it's going to be through a grant process or through something else. And this was the decision that in the end we made. So in my mind, I think for the public and for everybody, we did have a fulsome discussion about this. We're not seeing this for the first time tonight. This was as a result of discussions that happened, it's probably 6 months ago now, 8 months ago, I would think. So of course, pleased to help the food bank do their good work. Thanks.
Councillor Brymo?
Thanks. I wasn't here 6 months ago, but I do think we should have a limit. $10,000 is almost a third of what the whole grant budget is. So to me, that does seem extreme. I guess there were some discussions, but I do think that's a considerable amount given the total amount of the budget.
I need two questions answered before we can go to a vote, but one of them I'll start with the food bank and saying, with today's information of food inflation of over 7% and the exceptional increase in use from our local food bank, I think I shared when we last spoke of this, that there are other communities that have started to put funding food bank in their budget. We chose not to. We said we could look at it specifically through grants. I like what the Treasury Department has done and brought us maybe a much bigger award than has happened in the past. But I think it also helps us cover a critical need in our community. So I'll say that about the food bank. I don't have a problem separating out the nature one and asking for some more information. If indeed they were to supply us with something that made it far more pertinent to St. Thomas after we've asked, then we could come back to council with it again. But if council's okay, I'm all right at carving that one out for now. And I'm seeing noddings of the head. Is there anybody really against that? I'm not seeing that. Okay, so it's Councillor Baldwin Sands?
I move that, so I will ask for the amendment.
Okay. Of making it the other 4 or 5, whatever it is. I have a seconder for the amendment. Thank you, Councillor Clark. All right, so now we're back to discussion on the motion of all but the one. Further questions or comments? Okay. Acceptance of the other 4 as they're written. Is it 4? Am I reading? Yes. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. We will let the other one know, and it can come back with a further piece of information if it could convince us at that time. Great. Thank you very much.
No further items on the agenda under this committee unless there are any items from the members, Your Worship.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into reports pending. This relates to unfinished business of council. The members have a briefing memorandum from the city manager, including a listing of unfinished reports.
So will we be accepting this report? Am I looking for a mover and seconder? No?
Your Worship, this is strictly for information.
Okay. Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. I was very pleased to see this report and how it went back and pretty much itemized everything that we as a council have requested from city staff and have brought it forward again to say these things are pending. And I certainly do appreciate the respect that we are getting from the staff in order to see this here tonight. Thank you.
I agree. Councillor Rymal?
I appreciate the report. I like lists very much. So anyway, I just have a concern, not so much the items, but just the dates, that some of them are for 2023, which is pretty close to 3 years ago. So it's just a concern about, either, accepting or denying them, just to get the list going.
Thank you, Councillor Rymal. Had a quick conversation with the city manager about that today too. Not how do we present the list and where it goes in council. I like getting to see what we had left outstanding, but at some point, something gets old enough to get removed from the list. And I was wondering what the procedure would be for us to say that's either been accomplished or will not be accomplished. And so it kind of comes off the list. So I guess City Manager, input on that?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree. There are many items that are too far long on this list. Most predate my time here and some of the director time as well. So I think what we'll be doing over the next few weeks is kind of really assessing, is that item still outstanding? Has it been addressed maybe in a subsequent report? Can we remove it and can we bring a report forward? It is the leadership team goal to complete this list by the end of this term of council. So we'll be starting completely fresh for a new council.
Councillor Clark?
It's nice to see the axe throwing one is coming up in March with the snow melting. We might be back into axe throwing in the backyard season.
With lawn darts and axe throwing. I get it. Anything else on this report? I take it from our conversation. We'll accept it. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. So how does the process work for these unfinished items? Whose responsibility is to make sure that we track these make some decisions on? So how's that process supposed to work?
I'll go to the city manager. It's the process is, as you see it tonight, here is the list. And with some thought through the leadership team, with now applying some dates as to when they will come back, if indeed there are items that are coming back. Councillor or City Manager?
Sure. I will refer to our clerk, Maria, because it is her team who actually helps with managing this list. So, Maria.
Thank you, Your Worship. Following any council meeting, if there are any items that need to be referred to department head, a part of the leadership team, that item is placed on this unfinished business list. That unfinished business list has actually been very diligently tracked by the city manager and is discussed at every leadership team meeting. There are a couple that have fallen behind, but otherwise it's placed on every leadership team list, and the city manager inquires of the leadership team member when that item may be expected, and then it's placed on minutes of the leadership team when that item is going to be going before council.
Great. So there's this huge clock that starts ticking, and there's demerit points when they don't quite get there. I'm being facetious, but this is a way. I know it was asked last meeting as a way to, hey, I haven't heard about, I think it was the senior center or the Valley View questions in a while, but I know they're on the list somewhere. This gives us an automatic way where they come back. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Your Worship. When I read it, I was quite pleased for all the business we've done in the last 4 years, or 7 years for a lot of us. Very, very limited things here. Nothing I see, anything outstanding has to be decided tonight. I was quite pleased that we tidied up as we've pretty well moved on. So thank you.
Great. So a couple of huge accomplishments in the last couple of weeks, the review of strategic plan and the review of anything we kind of shelved for a moment to have it come back. So great work for us to be able to track the unfinished piece. All right, next item.
At this stage, council will reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. One this evening relating to a heritage alteration permit for the property at 581 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0226 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 581 Talbot Street be received for information, and further the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 581 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0226. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into communications. First item is a request for a proclamation, flag raising, and jumbo lighting from Big Brothers Big Sisters I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim September 2026 as Big Brothers Big Sisters Month in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Big Brothers Big Sisters flag be flown at City Hall from September 14th to 20th, 2026, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal from September 14th to 20th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Rymel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proclamation, flag raising, and jumbo lighting from the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership. I have a motion that City of St. Thomas proclaims September 10th to 17th, 2026 as Welcoming Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the St. Thomas Elgin Local Immigration Partnership flag be flown at City Hall from September 10th to 17th, 2026, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in gold and blue from September 10th to 17th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Rymel. Seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items under this particular area under communications. Unless there are any items from the members, we'll move into unfinished business of council. No items on the agenda unless there are any items from the members.
I understand there's a list, but we've already covered that.
Moving into the next item, which is new business of council.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you. This is just a question. I probably should have answered it back under 24A. On heritage designation, when we designate something a heritage, or they ask to be designated a heritage, is it simple to remove it? Is it a process to say, gee, I changed my mind a month later, I don't want to be heritage? Is that, I don't know the process.
Well, the process would be the owner of the property bringing it to council to ask one way or the other. I'd like it designated,
Yeah.
or I'd like it not undesignated. Council would then have to make that decision. Heritage, the Heritage Committee monitors all buildings in the different heritage districts and any designated buildings throughout the city. Most of our downtown is designated as a heritage district using the DDB's footprint. So all buildings in there have a heritage responsibility, designated as downtown heritage. So it would always go to the Heritage Committee on any, which is why we see in the case of the one on Talbot Street today, they're changing the front facade and have to ask for a heritage designation change, even though in this case they're reversing it back to a much more heritage look. So I hope that explained it, but the two different things, the designation of buildings or houses or certain buildings in town is a different designation, but still comes to this council through the Heritage Committee. Any other new business? I have one piece. We were informed today by our communications people, and I want to thank former Mayor Steve Peters, that St. Thomas Sally, our groundhog, has been recognized now as an official weather groundhog, and she's now on some official list, and it even shares her previous predictions, and so what a great thing. We now have an official groundhog event on Groundhog Day every year. And so thank you, Councillor Peters and our communications department for making us at least, and Sally the mural. And we don't claim we have a real groundhog. We claim we have a mural. And so St. Thomas Sally recognized internationally now. And that is the biggest news I could possibly share tonight under new business.
Your Worship, if there's no further items, there are no public notices or notices of motion. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with 3 matters of a proposed or pending disposition of land and a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Rymel.
Before I call for the vote, I'll share with our extensive audience in the gallery and all of those watching at home that we will now be moving into closed session. And we will come out of closed session simply to pass the bylaws from this meeting, including anything that may come out of the closed session work. So with that being said, is there questions or comments on going into closed session? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Now we're ready to rise from closed session.
I have a motion that council rise from closed session, moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments on rising? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business are bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Rymal, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Herbert, or Rymal, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 17th day of February, 2026.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Matthew Janes Consulting Limited. This relates to environmental site assessment grant under the community improvement program for the property on Center Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city, the Board of Trustees of the Congregation of First Church of United Church of Canada, the trustees of the St. Thomas Congregation of the Wesleyan Methodist Church, and the trustee board of the Wesleyan Methodist Church. This relates to site plan agreement for the proposed daycare in the church at 26 St. George Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Fourth bylaw, please.
Fourth and final bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 188-2002, being a bylaw to impose fees or charges with respect to recreation matters.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. We asked the director when the presentation was being done that clarification on especially the sport courts, and it was $2.50 per person that was said at the podium, but then we all received a letter the next day saying it was $2.50 for the entire court. I would like to amend this as a friendly amendment to put it back to what we were told. It was from the podium that it's to endorse the $2.50 per person on the court for the fees.
So in my mind, so it's, I want to make this clear. So it's been $2.50 per court, right?
It
It's
was less
$2.50 per
than
court.
that. It's now going up to $2.50.
Okay, so it's not $2.50 per person. So when Adrienne was speaking at the podium, she said it was the wrong amount. She said it was going to be $2.50 per person, but it's $2.50 per court. So I think though that it was clarified that it's $2.50 per court. Are you saying that you would like it to be $2.50 per person?
The director stated in council session that it was in the report for $2.50 per person was her interpretation of it, and then followed up with a letter the next day saying it was $2.50 per court. I'm saying that $2.50 per court is far too little to pay for an hour for one court or that portion of the gym. That's not even enough to keep the lights on. I think even $2.50 per person is a very small amount of $10 or $5 for two people or $10 for four people to play on those pickleball courts. And I'm hoping that council, because that was the comment that we received from the director, I am hoping that council goes back to that statement of that was how we were to interpret it. But then the next day received a letter stating that, no, the information is for $2.50 for the entire court.
Okay, so the way I kind of see this as the person writing the bylaws is that she misspoke here, and what was written down and presented would be the real thing. If we want to reconsider the amount we charge for those courts, I think that we would have to go back to the report that this was based upon, because the bylaw would be a result of the report. So I believe we'd have to go back and then deal with this in open session to revisit the report. But I'll have to turn this over to the clerk to explain whether that's what we need to do or not.
Mr. Chair, since the committee had received the report and directed that the bylaw be prepared in accordance with that report, and the actual attachment to the report did note that it was to move forward from $2 to $2.50 per quart. If this council wishes to look at that again, it would be in order to direct that the matter return to committee with a further report and an opportunity for further discussion, particularly with the director being in attendance. And then there'll be further information provided, possibly maybe even direction to get an accounting of what other municipalities may be charging. It's difficult for council to ask a question of the director when she's not present this evening. That would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Herbert?
Yeah, good vision. I was just going to say the same thing. We need Adrian here. I'd be happy to make a motion to defer this till we, and follow up with Adrian at a future meeting.
Madam Clerk, is the process for deferring bylaws the same as it would be in other areas of our meetings?
Mr. Chair, if there's a seconder that this bylaw can be deferred until a future meeting of council, recognizing that further discussion to take place during council.
Councillor Herbert, are you seconding?
Moved it, so
Yep.
we'll just need a seconder if there is one.
Can I do that?
Sure, Your Worship.
I never get a chance to do that.
I believe on motions of deferral, we would simply have a vote. So move to defer. Those in favor of deferring? Those opposed? That is carried. That fourth bylaw is deferred. Your Worship, I rise and report the successful passing of 3 bylaws and deferral of the fourth.
Great.
I have a motion by Councillor Reimel, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
No further items for open session, Your Worship. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment, moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sand, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Great. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjournment? Any opposed? That's carried. See you next week.